Listen, November of 2020, the World Health Organization comes out with an emergency advisory on their website. It's still there today. It says, do not use remdesivir to treat acute COVID-19. It doesn't work. They held a meeting based on all the studies with the European Society of Critical Care, ethicists, and others, and say, listen, don't use remdesivir. It doesn't work. And in fact, it has toxicities, both liver and renal toxicities. The US government to this day has never acknowledged the WHO's warning. They featured remdesivir in hospitals. They offered enhanced reimbursement to hospitals if they used remdesivir. And then the World Health Organization, this shows you how chaotic this is, a year and a half later, conducts a review. It's called the WHO Solidarity Group. And they said, were we right? More research has been done. Did remdesivir really work? And they reevaluate all the literature 18 months later with more studies. And they conclude, you know what? We were right to begin with. It doesn't work. And in fact, there's toxicities.
But when you had people like Joe Rogan go on and talk about ivermectin, they were like, he's taking a horse dewormer.
And Joe Rogan called Sanjay Gupta, he's my colleague at CNN, and Joe Rogan schooled Sanjay Gupta, schooled him. And, we should have, ivermectin won the Nobel Prize in 2015. It became the superstar of the pandemic. Once I got comfortable using it, oh my gosh, it was a go-to drug. It just literally revived people. We've published on this. People had low oxygen saturations. Oxygen saturation would come up. It blocks viral replication. It blocks the spike protein. It blocks the spike protein from causing the clumping of the red blood cells. Safer than Tylenol, rapidly acting. It's an astonishing drug. It became the absolute superstar of the pandemic. We should have outfitted every household with ivermectin. The nursing homes should have stocked it and started it immediately in patients. Immediately. Listen, we had good monoclonal antibodies. What happened? We had 6 of them. The U.S. government promptly pulled them off the market right after they went on the market 6 times in a row.
Well, not only that, there was hospitals that were saying that they're out of monoclonal antibodies.
Right, because of the distribution. And, the saddest thing is, it was a paper in Medical Economics in 2020, the contract for the monoclonal antibodies, they purchased enough of these to treat every single American.
Exactly.
And they dumped them down the drain, one after another. Every nursing home should have been outfitted with monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, followed the McCullough protocol, which became the AAPS protocol. It's a physician society. They should have followed it. We should have had ivermectin in every household. We should have had, every medical school should have had outpatient treatment tents. When I went on Tucker Carlson in 2021, I said, Tucker, I'm treating COVID and patients are surviving. Other doctors are doing other protocols and they're surviving. The French in Marseille, France, Didier Raoult had a terrific protocol. They're saving lives. I told Tucker, I said, Harvard has no protocol. Neither does the Mayo Clinic. Neither does UCLA. I said, they're not treating their patients. Our marquee medical centers suddenly were out of intellectual and academic ammo. They couldn't figure out how to do anything. And I was part of a Harvard consortium early on in the pandemic. It's called Stop COVID. I said, terrific. They got a big grant. We're going to stop COVID. And we had a couple meetings. What are we going to do? And we were going to observe COVID. I said, well, aren't we going to stop it? Aren't we going to actually treat it and help people? No, we're going to observe it. UT Southwestern in Dallas, where I went to medical school, they were on TV. They said, we've come up with a mathematical modeling research program. We're going to model how it spreads. Well, think about this. Think about this. There's an asteroid. It's out there. It's heading right towards Earth. Do we want to model it or describe it?
We want to monitor it.
Or do we want to blow that sucker out of the air and save the Earth? What I learned in the setting of a pandemic where there's worldwide fear, people don't want to step out and be bold and propose we actually do something about the problem. Can you imagine if we had any world leader, any president of any country in the world who said this, who got behind a microphone early on in the pandemic and said, I'm being briefed by all my experts. This pandemic appears to going to impact everyone. Everyone's going to get it. So we should be prepared for that. No one can escape getting this. So, we shouldn't wear masks and lock down and do hand sanitizer and all this because we're all going to get sick. You can't avoid it. Do you remember contact tracing? Oh,
Mhm.
let's see who touched who. I
Yeah.
mean, these things nobody brings up anymore, but they were all predicated on the fact that you could get away without getting the virus. Oh, wear a mask, you'll be able to avoid COVID. No, if somebody came out and said, we're all going to get it, there are two bad outcomes: hospitalization and death. We're going to organize a program to help everybody get through the illness and avoid hospitalization and death. And we do that, we're going to win. Look at the title of my book. It says, Courage to Face COVID-19. That's what I did. That's what my contribution was. Preventing hospitalizations and death. That's what I did. And that's what doctors in my circles did. And the last part, while battling the biopharmaceutical complex, I was doing everything I could, and yet I was getting roadblock after roadblock thrown right in front of me. Oh, you're canceled off YouTube. You're canceled out of this. You can't present this. You can't do this. When I published my first paper in American Journal of Medicine, in just a very highly ranked journal. I mean, I was going to publish it in New England Journal of Medicine, but they started publishing some fraudulent papers during the pandemic. I said, something's wrong at New England. And I had published there a lot. I published in American Journal of Medicine, and there's letters to the editor. And usually you get about 2 letters to the editor. People point out something, and there's a little rebuttal, and it's all published, and people get to read it. I got 6 letters to the editor. And they came in from Duke University, from McGill in Montreal, Monash in Australia. These are top centers. And the typical statement in these letters is, Dr. McCullough, you can't treat COVID. You don't have enough evidence. You don't have enough evidence. And then, of course, I did, I had more time was going on, so I had a chance to provide more evidence. I said, well, in fact, there's more evidence. And so here it is, and I provide more evidence. And then after a while, I started to get a little, I started to get a little snarky. And I said, join me and overcome your fear and treat patients to help them avoid hospitalization and death. Duke wasn't treating anybody. McGill wasn't treating anybody. Monash wasn't. Harvard didn't. They didn't treat anybody. They literally were playing defense, waiting for people to come in the hospital.
If you enjoyed this short clip, go ahead and click here to watch the full episode. And make sure to click here to subscribe to our channel to watch all other episodes of the WiseNuts podcast.